The warning lights on the UES Harmony Bridge flashed red as 12 massive alien ships dropped out of hyperspace. Each vessel was 3 times larger than the human exploration ship, their dark hulls covered in weapon ports that glowed with threatening energy. Lieutenant Commander Lee Hanna stood at her post watching the tactical display with calm eyes. She had trained for this moment her entire career. First contact with an alien species, the moment that would change humanity forever. "Captain Park, they are requesting communication," reported Communications Officer Choi Mina from her station. Captain Park Jinwoo nodded grimly. "Put them through, Mina, and record everything." The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature that made several bridge crew members step backward. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in thick gray scales that looked like natural armor. Its eyes were deep red and sharp teeth filled its mouth. 4 arms extended from its torso, each ending in clawed hands. "I am War Commander Vextal of the Vorthak Empire." The creature spoke in perfect English, though its voice carried a mechanical translation effect. "You will surrender your vessel immediately and prepare for questioning. Resistance will result in your destruction." Captain Park remained calm. "I am Captain Park Jinwoo of the United Earth Ship Harmony. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic contact with your people." Vextal's red eyes narrowed. "Peace is weakness. Diplomacy is for species too cowardly to take what they desire. You will submit to Vorthak authority, or you will die." "We prefer to discuss this in person," Park replied. "There is a neutral station nearby, Meridian Point. We can meet there under peaceful conditions." The Vorthak commander seemed amused by this suggestion. After a moment he nodded. "Very well, your ship will dock at the station. You may bring 5 representatives. Any sign of treachery will result in the immediate vaporization of your pathetic vessel." The communication ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. "Sir, should we contact Earth Command?" asked Engineer Kim Tae-ho. Park shook his head. "No time. By the time a message reaches Earth and reinforcements arrive, this will be over one way or another." He turned to Hana. "You will lead the diplomatic team. Choose your people carefully." Hana nodded. She had studied alien contact protocols extensively, but no training could fully prepare someone for this moment. "I will take Mina for communications, Tae-ho for technical consultation, Dr. Yoon So-young for science, and Sergeant Oh Dae-sung for security." 3 hours later, the human delegation sat across from 5 Vorthak representatives in the station's central conference room. The room was designed for meetings between different species, with adjustable seating and atmospheric controls. The humans looked small compared to their alien counterparts, but they maintained professional composure. Vextal dominated the Vorthak side of the table. His 4 arms rested on the surface, claws occasionally tapping against the metal. The other, Vorthak representatives watched the humans with predatory interest. "Let us begin with simple facts," Vextal said. "The Vorthak Empire controls 17 star systems. We have conquered every species we have encountered. Your species will join our empire as subjects, providing resources and labor as directed." "That is not acceptable," Hana replied calmly. "Humanity values independence and mutual cooperation. We propose establishing trade relationships and cultural exchange programs." Vextal laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Cooperation, trade. These are concepts for equals. You are not our equals. Your single ship against our fleet proves this." Dr. So-young leaned forward. "Military strength is only one measure of capability. Perhaps we could demonstrate other forms of advancement." "Other forms?" Another Vorthak representative spoke. "What other forms matter?" "The strong rule. The weak serve. This is the natural order." Tae-ho cleared his throat. "We have studied your ship designs from sensor readings. Your technology is impressive, but it follows predictable patterns. Humans excel at finding unexpected solutions to problems." Vextal's eyes flashed with anger. "You dare analyze Vorthak technology? Impossible. Our systems are beyond primitive understanding." The war commander stood suddenly, his massive frame casting a shadow over the human delegation. His right hand moved to a weapon at his side, drawing what appeared to be an advanced plasma pistol. The other Vorthak representatives, tensed, ready for violence. "You speak of cooperation and analysis as if you possess value," Vextal growled. "Let me demonstrate the reality of your situation." He raised the weapon, pointing it directly at Hana's head. The human delegation remained perfectly still, though Sergeant Daesung's hand moved slightly toward his own sidearm. "This weapon can burn through your ship's hull plating," Vextal continued. "Your fragile organic bodies offer no resistance to its power." Without warning, he pulled the trigger. The plasma bolt screamed past Hana's ear, close enough that she could feel the heat. It struck the wall behind her, leaving a smoking crater in the metal. The intended effect was clear. Show human fragility. Force submission through intimidation. End the pretense of negotiation. Instead, Hana turned slowly to examine the burn mark, then looked back at Vextal with unchanged expression. She extended her right hand toward the war commander, palm up. "May I?" she asked politely. Vextal stared at her, confusion replacing anger. He had expected screaming, begging, or at least some sign of fear. Instead, this small human was asking to examine his weapon. The other Vorthak representatives exchanged glances. In their long history of conquest, no species had ever reacted this way to such a clear demonstration of superior firepower. Curiosity overcoming suspicion, Vextal placed the plasma pistol in Hana's outstretched hand. "What do you think you can accomplish with this?" Hana accepted the weapon with both hands, turning it over to examine its construction. The pistol was clearly alien in design, with smooth curves and an energy cell that glowed blue through a transparent section. "Interesting power coupling system," she murmured more to herself than to the aliens. "The plasma generation chamber uses magnetic field containment, but the focusing array is unnecessarily complex." Her fingers found hidden release mechanisms that even some Vorthak warriors struggled to locate. Within seconds, she had separated the weapon into two main components. "The grip section houses the power cell and basic firing mechanism," she explained, setting pieces on the table. "But the barrel assembly contains the real sophistication." Vextal watched in growing amazement as Hana continued dismantling his weapon. She separated the barrel assembly into 4 smaller parts, then began working on the power cell housing. Her movements were precise and confident, showing clear understanding of the weapon's function. "How do you know our technology?" demanded another Vorthak representative. "Basic engineering principles," Hana replied, not looking up from her work. "Energy flow, magnetic containment, plasma dynamics. The specific implementation varies, but the underlying physics remains constant." Within 30 seconds, the weapon lay completely disassembled on the conference table. 15 separate components were arranged neatly in the order of reassembly. Hana had taken apart a Vorthak military weapon faster than most Vorthak armorsmiths could manage. She looked up at Vextal, who was staring at the disassembled weapon in shock. Around the table, the other Vorthak representatives leaned forward, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Hana carefully slid the weapon components back across the table to their original owner. "Any questions?" The conference room fell into complete silence. War Commander Vextal stared at his disassembled weapon, trying to process what had just happened. In 3 centuries of conquest, no species had ever demonstrated such immediate understanding of Vorthak technology. "This is impossible," whispered one of the Vorthak representatives. "Our weapons are designed to be tamper-proof. Even our own engineers require special tools." Hana folded her hands calmly on the table. "Would you like me to reassemble it?" Vextal's red eyes narrowed. "You took it apart using some kind of scanning device, a hidden tool. Sergeant Daesung, would you please scan me for concealed devices?" Hana requested. The human security officer pulled out a small scanner and ran it over Hana's body. "No hidden technology detected, Commander. Standard uniform, no modifications." Captain Park leaned forward. "Perhaps we should reconsider the nature of these negotiations, War Commander. Clearly there are things about humanity you did not expect." "One trick proves nothing," Vextal growled, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Your species remains weak and inferior. May I suggest a different approach? Park asked. Instead of discussing submission, why don't we demonstrate our respective capabilities? You can learn what humanity offers and we can understand Vorthak's strengths. Vexatal considered this for several long moments. His pride had been damaged by Hana's display, but his curiosity was aroused. How had a primitive species achieved such immediate comprehension of advanced technology? Very well, he decided. We will conduct proper evaluations. You will demonstrate your claimed abilities under controlled conditions. Excellent, Park agreed. Engineer Kim Taeho, please join us. Taeho entered the conference room carrying a small toolkit and a portable scanner. He bowed politely to the Vorthak delegation before taking his seat. Taeho specializes in adaptive engineering, Park explained. He finds ways to improve existing systems using available resources. Vextal gestured to one of his subordinates, who placed a device on the table. It was roughly the size of a briefcase, with a curved surface that glowed with soft blue light. This is a personal shield generator, the Vorthak explained. It provides protection against energy weapons and physical impacts. No species we have encountered has been able to modify Vorthak defensive technology. Taeho examined the device without touching it, walking around the table to view it from different angles. May I scan it to understand the basic function? Proceed, Vextal agreed. Taeho ran his scanner over the shield generator, studying the readings carefully. After 5 minutes, he looked up. The device uses a layered energy field to deflect incoming attacks. 3 separate field generators create overlapping protection zones. Correct, confirmed the Vorthak technician. The system is operating at maximum efficiency. Actually, it's running at about 70% efficiency, Taeho corrected politely. The field generators are fighting each other instead of working together. May I show you? The Vorthak representatives exchanged uncertain glances. Finally, Vextal nodded. Demonstrate. Taeho opened his toolkit and removed several small components. Working quickly but carefully, he attached these to the shield generator's external ports. Within minutes, the device's blue glow intensified noticeably. I've added harmonic synchronizers between the field generators, Taeho explained. Instead of creating overlapping fields that interfere with each other, they now work in sequence. The protection level remains the same, but energy consumption drops by 30%. The Vorthak technician ran his own scanner over the modified device. His scaled features showed obvious shock. This is impossible. These modifications should destabilize the entire system. The modifications use principles from human electrical engineering, Taeho said. We learned to make different systems work together efficiently because we often lack the resources to build everything from scratch. Vextal stood and paced around the room, his 4 arms moving in agitation. Your species modifies our technology, using primitive components and achieves superior performance. How? We see patterns, offered Communications Officer Mina. Human brains evolved to find connections between seemingly unrelated things. It helped us survive on our homeworld. Show me these patterns, Vextal demanded. Mina activated her portable computer and displayed a series of signal intercepts. These are transmissions from your fleet over the past 6 hours. Your communications are encrypted, but the encryption follows predictable mathematical sequences. She highlighted different sections of the data. Here, your ships report status every 20 minutes. Here, course corrections are transmitted using a standard format. And here, weapon targeting data uses a completely different encryption system. You cannot possibly decode Vorthak military communications, protested another alien representative. We don't need to decode them completely, Mina replied. We just need to recognize the patterns. Your fleet moves in formation Delta 77. Your weapon systems charge in sequence from port to starboard. Your shield frequencies rotate every 30 seconds in a fixed cycle. She displayed a new screen showing fleet movement predictions. Based on these patterns, your next maneuver will be a 40-degree turn to port, followed by weapons charging and shield frequency rotation to pattern theta. Vextal activated his communication device and spoke rapidly in the Vorthak language. A moment later, his expression showed complete bewilderment. My fleet commander confirms your prediction was entirely accurate, he admitted. You observed our operations for mere hours and decoded our tactical procedures. Humans excel at adaptive learning, Dr. So-Young added. We don't just copy what we see. We understand the underlying reasons and find ways to improve the system. This is what we meant about cooperation, Captain Park said. Your people have built an impressive empire through strength and determination. But you've been doing it the hard way. Humans specialize in finding easier paths to the same goals. Vextal returned to his seat, but his posture had changed. The aggressive dominance was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like respect. Your species confuses me, he admitted. You appear physically weak, yet you demonstrate capabilities that our greatest minds have not achieved. You claim to seek cooperation, but you could clearly cause significant damage to our systems. That's exactly why we seek cooperation, Hana replied. Imagine what we could accomplish working together instead of fighting each other. You would share these abilities with the Vorthak Empire. We would share them with Vorthak partners, Park corrected. Partnership implies mutual benefit and respect. Empire implies domination and submission. Vextal was quiet for a long moment, processing this concept. I must consult with my superiors. These demonstrations have raised questions that require careful consideration. Of course, Park agreed. But perhaps while we wait, we could continue learning about each other. Knowledge benefits everyone. The war commander nodded slowly. Yes, I believe there is much more to learn about humanity. 3 hours later, War Commander Vextal returned to the conference room with a new determination in his red eyes. He had spoken with the Vorthak High Command, and they had given him permission to conduct more thorough tests of human capabilities. The Vorthak Empire has decided to evaluate your species properly, he announced. We will conduct trials to determine your true strengths and weaknesses. Captain Park nodded. We accept your evaluation, provided it remains non-lethal and fair to both sides. The first test will be combat effectiveness, Vextal declared. Your military personnel will face our war forms in the station's combat arena. This will show us if human tactical abilities match your technical skills. Sergeant O. Daisung stepped forward. How many opponents, and what are the rules of engagement? 12 war forms against your team of 5. The war forms are creatures we have bred, specifically for battle. They are fast, strong, and trained to kill. The arena has various obstacles and environmental controls. The test ends when one side can no longer continue fighting. Acceptable, Daesung replied calmly. 2 hours later, the human team stood at one end of the combat arena while 12 massive creatures waited at the other end. The warforms looked like a cross between wolves and bears, but much larger. Each beast stood 6 feet tall at the shoulder, with thick fur covering muscular bodies. Their teeth and claws gleamed under the arena lights. These creatures have never been defeated in combat, Vextal announced from the observation deck. They have destroyed military units from 7 different species. Daesung studied the arena layout through his helmet display. The rectangular space contained various obstacles, concrete barriers, metal platforms, and what appeared to be gravity manipulation devices built into the floor. Team, remember the plan, he said quietly into his communication system. We're not here to prove we're stronger. We're here to prove we're smarter. The arena countdown began. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. 0. The war forms charged immediately, moving with surprising speed across the arena floor. Instead of advancing to meet them, the human team spread out and moved toward different obstacles. Private Kim Sora reached the first gravity manipulator and activated it, creating a low-gravity zone in the center of the arena. The charging war forms suddenly found themselves moving too fast to control their direction, several of them colliding with each other. Corporal Lee Minho activated his sonic disruptor, not aimed at the creatures, but at the arena's metal walls. The sound waves created a high-pitched resonance that clearly bothered the warforms, causing them to shake their heads and lose focus. Interesting, murmured Dr. So-Young from the observation deck. They're not fighting the creatures directly. They're changing the battle conditions. Meanwhile, Daesung had reached an elevated platform, and was using his scanner to analyze the warform's behavior patterns. Team, these creatures hunt in pack formation. They have an alpha leader and follow. Specific attack sequences. Private Yoon Dojin fired a flashbang grenade, not at the creatures but at a reflective surface, creating multiple bright flashes from different angles. The warform's sensitive eyes were overwhelmed, causing temporary disorientation. "Now watch," Daesung commanded. He aimed his weapon and fired a single tranquilizer dart, not at the largest warform but at one in the middle of the pack. The targeted creature stumbled and fell, releasing pheromones that signaled distress to the others. Immediately, the pack's formation changed as several warforms moved to protect their fallen member. "They're using the creature's instincts against them," observed Vextal with growing interest. Specialist Park Yunha had been quietly working with the arena's environmental controls. She activated a series of air circulation fans, creating wind currents that carried the scent of the fallen warform throughout the arena. The remaining warforms became confused, trying to track multiple scent trails that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Their coordinated attack dissolved into chaotic individual movements. "Phase 2, Daesung announced. The human team regrouped near the arena's center where the gravity manipulation had created an area of complex physics. The warforms, now frustrated and angry, charged again. But this time, the humans were ready, with a different tactic. Instead of avoiding the creatures, they used the modified gravity field to change their own movement patterns, jumping higher and moving faster than should have been possible. Sora fired a net launcher, but not at any specific creature. The net spread across the low-gravity area, creating an obstacle that the warforms couldn't avoid in their charge. 3 more creatures became tangled in the net, pulling each other down as they tried to break free. Minho had switched his sonic disruptor to a different frequency, one that seemed to calm the warforms instead of agitating them. The remaining free creatures slowed their attack, looking confused. "Fascinating," Dr. So-young commented. "They're not trying to defeat the warforms through superior force. They're solving the problem of aggression itself." Daesung stepped forward, moving slowly and keeping his weapons lowered. He spoke in a calm, steady voice, even though the creatures couldn't understand his words. The tone itself seemed to have an effect. One of the largest warforms approached him cautiously. Instead of attacking, Daesung held out his hand, allowing the creature to catch his scent. After a moment, the warform sat down. "How is this possible?" demanded one of the Vorthak observers. "Humans evolved alongside other predatory species," Daesung explained, still keeping his voice calm. "We learned to communicate with dangerous animals rather than simply fighting them. These creatures aren't naturally aggressive toward us. They were trained to attack, but their basic instincts respond to non-threatening behavior." Within minutes, all the remaining warforms had settled down. Several were actually approaching the humans in what appeared to be curiosity rather than hostility. The combat test was over. No warforms had been killed or seriously injured. No humans had been harmed. The creatures that had never been defeated were now sitting peacefully around the arena. "Impossible," breathed Vextal. "These warforms were conditioned to attack any non-Vorthak species on sight." "Conditioning can be changed," Daesung replied. "We didn't defeat your warforms. We helped them remember that fighting isn't always necessary." The second test began immediately. Dr. So-young was presented with a Vorthak quantum fold communicator and given 4 hours to understand its function and reverse engineer the technology. This device enables instantaneous communication across interstellar distances, the Vorthak technician explained. "The quantum fold technology has taken our civilization 800 years to develop." So-young accepted the challenge calmly. She began by scanning the device extensively, taking detailed measurements and energy readings. Unlike Taeho's mechanical approach or Hana's intuitive disassembly, So-young worked methodically through the theoretical principles. "The device creates quantum entanglement between paired particles," she murmured, making notes on her computer. "But the entanglement is maintained artificially rather than naturally." "Interesting." She spent 2 hours purely on analysis, not touching the device but understanding its function through observation and calculation. The Vorthak representatives watched with growing amazement as she began sketching improvement designs. The quantum field stability is maintained through brute force energy application, she announced. But quantum entanglement doesn't require continuous energy input if the pairing is established correctly. In the third hour, she began building her own version using components from her portable laboratory kit. Her device was smaller than the Vorthak original and used completely different materials. Human quantum theory approaches the problem differently, she explained while working. We focus on working with quantum uncertainty rather than trying to control it absolutely. When her device was complete, she activated both communicators. The Vorthak version required a massive power source and created visible energy distortions. Soyoung's version ran on a battery pack and produced no external effects. Both devices are now quantum paired, she announced. But mine uses 90% less energy and has built-in encryption that changes randomly with each quantum fluctuation. She handed one device to Vexital and kept the other. Please take yours to your ship and try to communicate. 20 minutes later, Vexital's voice came through clearly from his flagship. Dr. Soyoung, this communication is clearer than our own systems provide. That's because I eliminated the interference patterns that your original design creates, she replied. Human engineering focuses on elegant solutions rather than overwhelming power. When Vexital returned to the station, his expression had changed completely. The arrogant war commander was gone, replaced by someone who looked genuinely thoughtful. Your species challenges every assumption we have made about intelligence and capability, he admitted. These demonstrations raise serious questions about Vorthak methods and philosophy. Questions are good, Captain Park replied. They lead to better answers. War Commander Vexital requested a private meeting with Commander Hana the following day. They met in a smaller conference room, away from the formal diplomatic setting. The massive Vorthak looked different somehow, less threatening and more uncertain. I must ask you a direct question, Vexital began. How long has humanity known about the Vorthak Empire? Hana considered her answer carefully. We've been aware of your existence for approximately 14 months. 14 months, Vexital repeated slowly. And in that time you studied our technology, our tactics, our communications, our psychology. We studied everything we could observe, yes. Why did you not attack first? With your demonstrated abilities, you could have struck before we knew of your existence. Hana leaned forward, her expression serious. Because attacking would have been the wrong choice for both our species. Explain this. May I be completely honest with you, War Commander? I insist on it. Hana activated a small display device, showing star charts and data analysis. We've been monitoring more than just your technology and tactics. We've been observing your empire's social and economic patterns. The display showed the 17 Vorthak-controlled systems with various data overlays. Your empire is in decline, Vexital. Not militarily, but in every other way that matters. Vexital's red eyes flashed with anger. That is impossible. The Vorthak Empire grows stronger every year. Does it? Hana asked gently. When was the last time your people invented something genuinely new? When did Vorthak technology last advance? Beyond incremental improvements? She highlighted different sections of the star chart. System 7 stopped providing new technological contributions 3 years ago. System 12 has been giving you deliberately flawed designs for 18 months. System 4 is providing only maintenance-level support for existing equipment. You lie, Vexital growled, but his voice lacked conviction. Our cultural analysis specialist, Baek Ji-young, spent months studying transmissions from your conquered worlds. She found something interesting. Hana changed the display to show communication patterns. The subject species aren't openly rebelling, but they're engaging in what humans call malicious compliance. What is this malicious compliance? They follow your orders exactly, but they don't help you succeed. They give you technology that works, but not as well as it could. They provide information that's accurate, but incomplete. They maintain your systems, but they don't improve them. Vexital was silent for a long moment, studying the data. You are saying our subject species are deliberately limiting our advancement. They're strangling you slowly, Hana confirmed. Every year, the gap between your potential and your actual capability grows larger. Your empire appears strong because you can still conquer through brute force, but you've stopped growing in every other way. Why are you telling me this? Because we see potential in the Vorthak people that your current system is wasting. Hana changed the display again, showing population and resource analyses. Your species is naturally excellent at large-scale organization and long-term planning. You've built an empire that spans 17 star systems and maintained it for centuries. That requires incredible administrative skill. But we rule through fear and domination. Yes, and that's the problem. Fear and domination can create obedience, but they can't create innovation or genuine cooperation. The species you've conquered give you just enough to keep you satisfied, but never enough to make you truly powerful. Vextal began pacing around the small room, his forearms moving in complex gestures. Are you saying the Vorthak Empire is doomed to stagnation? Not if you're willing to change your approach. Change how? Partnership instead of domination. Cooperation instead of conquest. Shared growth instead of forced submission. Hana stood and moved to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Humanity spent thousands of years fighting among ourselves before we learned this lesson. Competition and conflict can drive innovation, but only to a point. Real advancement comes from working together toward common goals. You would help the Vorthak Empire reform itself? We would help the Vorthak people build something better than an empire. Vextal joined her at the viewport. What do you mean? Empires are built on the idea that one group is superior to all others. But what if instead of trying to prove superiority, we focused on finding each species' unique strengths and combining them? A confederation rather than an empire. Something like that. Humans need challenges to drive our adaptability. Vorthak need fresh perspectives to break your stagnation. The 17 species you've conquered need freedom to contribute their full potential instead of just minimal compliance. And together we could achieve more than any of us could alone. That's the theory we'd like to test. Vextal turned away from the viewport, his expression troubled. I must tell you something that few outside the Vorthak High Command know. 3 outer systems have begun actively rebelling against our authority. System 15, System 16, and System 17. Hana said quietly. You know about the rebellions? We know about the economic warfare, the manufacturing delays, the communication disruptions, the systematic breakdown of supply chains. Classic techniques for undermining a centralized power structure. Our military commanders want to crush these rebellions with overwhelming force, and that would work temporarily, but it would also prove to the other 14 systems that cooperation is impossible. You'd face wider rebellions within 5 years. Vextal resumed pacing. You're suggesting we negotiate with rebels. We're suggesting you treat them as partners instead of subjects. Find out what they actually want instead of what you think they should want. The Vorthak way is strength and dominance. The Vorthak way has led to stagnation and slow collapse. Maybe it's time to try a different way. Even if I agreed with this philosophy, the High Command would never accept such radical changes. Hana smiled. What if we could demonstrate that cooperation produces better results than domination? How? Joint research projects, combined exploration, missions, shared technological development. Start small with voluntary participants. Let the results speak for themselves. You would work with Vorthak scientists and engineers? We would work with anyone interested in pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Vextal was quiet for several minutes, clearly wrestling with ideas that challenged everything he had been taught. Finally, he spoke. There is a young science leader named Kethran who has often suggested that the Vorthak could learn from other species, rather than simply conquering them. She has been considered dangerously radical. She sounds like exactly the kind of person we need to talk with. If I arrange such a meeting, it could be seen as treason by the High Command, or it could be seen as creative problem-solving by a war commander who found a new path to Vorthak glory. You think cooperation could bring glory to the Vorthak people? I think cooperation could bring the Vorthak people something better than glory. It could bring them a future where they continue growing instead of slowly dying. Vexatal straightened to his full height, decision crystallizing in his red eyes. I will contact science leader Kethran. We will conduct a small joint research project as you suggest. What kind of project? Something that addresses a problem both our species face. Something that demonstrates the value of combining different approaches to the same challenge. Hana nodded approvingly. That sounds like the beginning of something important. Or the beginning of the end of my career, Vextal replied, but he was almost smiling as he said it. Science leader Kethran arrived at Meridian Point 3 days later, aboard a small research vessel. She was notably different from the other Vorthak the humans had encountered. Smaller in stature, with scales that showed a blue-green tint rather than gray, and eyes that held curiosity instead of aggression. War Commander Vextal tells me you have proposed collaborative research between our species, she said without preamble as she entered the conference room. This concept intrigues me greatly. Dr. Soyoung stood to greet the Vorthak scientist. We believe both our species could benefit from combining different approaches to common problems. What kind of problems? Kethran asked, settling into a chair designed for Vorthak physiology. Defensive systems that adapt to new threats in real time, Soyoung replied. It's something both humans and Vorthak need, but our methods of achieving it are completely different. Kethran's eyes brightened with interest. Show me your approach. Soyoung activated a holographic display showing human defensive technology. Human shields focus on rapid adaptation. When they encounter a new type of attack, they automatically adjust their properties to provide better protection. Interesting, Kethran murmured. Our shields focus on absolute strength. They maintain maximum protection against all known threats, but they cannot adapt to unknown attacks. Exactly. Your approach provides superior protection against expected threats. Our approach provides better survival against unexpected ones. What if we combined both approaches? That's what we'd like to find out. The joint research began immediately. Kethran brought examples of Vorthak defensive technology, while Soyoung provided human adaptive algorithms. Working together in the station's laboratory, they began designing a hybrid system. Human technology is remarkably elegant, Kethran observed as she studied Soyoung's adaptive protocols. You achieve complex results with surprisingly simple methods. Vorthak engineering is impressively robust, Soyoung replied, examining the alien shield generators. Your systems maintain peak performance under extreme conditions. Our different philosophies create different strengths, Kethran agreed. Humans adapt quickly to change. Vorthak maintain stability through change. What happens when we combine quick adaptation with long-term stability? They worked for 18 hours straight, taking breaks only when necessary. The hybrid defensive system that emerged was unlike anything either species had created independently. The base shield provides Vorthak-level protection against conventional attacks, Soyoung explained as they tested the prototype. But when it encounters something new, the human adaptive algorithms modify the shield properties in real time. And the Vorthak stability systems ensure that the adaptations don't destabilize the overall defense, Kethran added. The shield learns and improves, but it never loses its core protective capability. War Commander Vextal observed the testing with growing amazement. The hybrid shield not only outperformed both human and Vorthak systems individually, but it continued improving as they tested it with different attack types. This is unprecedented, he admitted. Our best defensive systems could not adapt to new threats this quickly, and our best adaptive systems couldn't maintain this level of baseline protection, Soyoung added. The combination achieves capabilities that neither approach could reach alone. More importantly, Kethran said quietly, this demonstrates that collaboration produces results superior to competition. Meanwhile, Captain Park had been conducting his own discussions with Vextal about the broader implications of their cooperation. The joint research proves the concept works on a technical level, Park observed. But what about the political and social challenges? Vextal looked troubled. I have received communications from the High Command. They are concerned about my extended negotiations with humanity. Are you under orders to end the talks? Not yet, but I am under pressure to demonstrate concrete benefits to the Vorthak Empire. What would they consider concrete benefits? Territory, resources, technological superiority over potential enemies. Park nodded thoughtfully. What if we could offer something better than any of those things? What could be better than expansion and power? Security and growth without the costs of conquest. Park activated his communication system and contacted the human ship. Engineer Taiho, please join us with your latest analysis of Vorthak resource management. When Taiho arrived, he brought detailed charts showing resource flows throughout the Vorthak Empire. The cost of maintaining control over 17 systems is enormous, Taiho explained to Vextal. Military presence, administrative oversight, forced compliance enforcement. You spend 40% of your total resources just keeping your empire together. That is the price of order and stability. But what if you didn't need to pay that price, Park asked. What if the 17 systems wanted to work with you instead of being forced to work for you? Impossible. Without military control, they would rebel immediately. 3 of them are already rebelling despite military control, Taiho pointed out, and our analysis suggests that the other 14 are providing minimal cooperation specifically because of that military presence. Park leaned forward. Vextal, what if instead of an empire based on conquest, you created a confederation based on mutual benefit? The Vorthak people would never accept such weakness. Would they accept greater prosperity and security? Taiho showed new calculations on his display. If the 17 systems became voluntary partners instead of conquered subjects, and if they provided full cooperation instead of minimal compliance, the total productive output would increase by approximately 300%. Vextal stared at the numbers. 300%? Your empire currently extracts about 30% of each system's potential contribution. Voluntary partners would likely contribute 90% or more, because they would benefit directly from the Confederation's success. But without military dominance, we would have no guarantee of their loyalty. You would have something better, Park replied. You would have their genuine interest in maintaining the partnership. Economic interdependence creates stronger bonds than military control, Taiho added. Partners have reasons to stay together and work for mutual success. Subjects only have reasons to rebel when they think they can succeed. Vextal was silent, for several long minutes processing these concepts. Even if this Confederation idea has merit, he finally said, the transition period would be extremely dangerous. The 17 systems would see any reduction in military control as weakness. What if the transition wasn't sudden, Park suggested? What if it was gradual, with clear benefits at each stage? How would that work? Start with the systems that are already rebelling. Instead of crushing them militarily, offer them partnership status. Let them see the benefits of cooperation. Use their success to encourage other systems to request similar arrangements. And if some systems prefer the current arrangement, then let them keep it for now. Competition between different relationship models will show which approach works better. Catherine looked up from her research. War Commander, the joint defensive system we've created could revolutionize military technology throughout the galaxy. If the Vorthak were the first to offer such advanced systems to other species, through trade partnerships, we would become the most sought-after allies in the galaxy, Vextal completed the thought. Species would want to work with us instead of fearing us. Exactly, Park agreed. Strength through cooperation instead of strength through domination. I must present these ideas to the High Command, Vextal decided, but they will require concrete proof that cooperation produces better results than conquest. Then let's give them that proof, Park suggested. A formal pilot program with one of the rebelling systems, full partnership status, complete technological sharing, joint military defense. If it succeeds, expand the program. If it fails, return to the previous system. Vextal stood and began pacing again, but this time his movements showed excitement, rather than agitation. System 15 has been the most vocal in their rebellion demands, he said. They want autonomy and the right to develop their own trade relationships. Perfect test case, Park agreed. Offer them exactly what they want, but as part of a formal confederation rather than complete independence. And if they accept, then you'll have your proof that partnership works better than domination. And if the High Command approves, then we'll have the foundation for something unprecedented in galactic history, Park replied. A true alliance of equals. 6 months later, Admiral Lee Hanna stood in the command center of the newly constructed Harmony Station, watching as the first graduation ceremony of the Human Vorthak Joint Academy took place in the station's main assembly hall. 50 young beings from both species had completed intensive training in cooperative problem-solving, technological integration, and diplomatic relations. The ceremony represented something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time, 2 species had chosen partnership over conquest as the foundation of their relationship. The pilot program with System 15 had exceeded all expectations. The former rebel system had not only accepted Confederation status, but had become the most productive partner in the new alliance. Their voluntary contributions to joint research and development had revolutionized everything, from agricultural techniques to faster-than-light communication. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from the outer sensor array, reported Communications Officer Choi Mina, now wearing the insignia of the Human Vorthak Combined Fleet. Put it through, Mina. Partner Commander Vextal appeared on the main screen. His title had changed when the Vorthak High Command formally approved the Confederation model. Instead of War Commander, he now led through cooperation rather than dominance. Admiral Hanna, long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching the outer boundary of our space. 17 vessels, unknown configuration, moving in attack formation. How long until they reach our territory? Approximately 6 hours. Their energy signatures don't match any known species in our databases. Hanna nodded calmly. Convene the Joint Defense Council immediately and activate the new early warning network. Within an hour, the conference room at Harmony Station was filled with representatives from all 19 systems of the Terra Vorthak Confederation. What had started as an empire of conquest had transformed into a voluntary alliance that now included the original 17 Vorthak systems, plus humanity and System 20, a species that had requested membership after observing the Confederation's success. The approaching fleet has been identified as belonging to the Nethys Collective, reported science leader Kethron, now the Confederation's chief of xenobiology. They are a crystalline-based species known for aggressive expansion and technological absorption, meaning they conquer other species to steal their technology, clarified Dr. Soyoung. Correct. Intelligence reports suggest they have assimilated 12 different civilizations in the past century. Admiral Park Jin-woo, now commanding the Confederation's Exploration Division, activated the tactical display. The Nethys approach follows a standard intimidation pattern: overwhelming force, demands for immediate surrender, followed by systematic dismantling of the target civilization's infrastructure. Standard Vorthak tactics, Vextal observed wryly, before we learned better methods. The question is, how do we respond? Hanna asked. Do we meet force with force, or do we try something different? Our combined fleet is powerful enough to engage them militarily, reported Fleet Commander Oh Dae-sung. But the cost in lives and resources would be significant. What about the non-military approach? Suggested Engineer Tai-ho. We've had success converting potential enemies into partners before. The Nethys are different from the Vorthak, warned Kethran. They don't rule through military dominance. They completely absorb conquered species, erasing their individual cultures and identities. Then we need to show them something they can't absorb, Hanna decided. Something that only works through voluntary cooperation. 4 hours later, the Nethys fleet arrived at the Confederation's outer boundary. Instead of a defensive line of warships, they found a single station with 2 vessels docked alongside it. One ship bore human design characteristics. The other was clearly Vorthak construction. The lead Nethys vessel, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with internal energy, transmitted a standard conquest demand. inferior biological entities, you will surrender all technological assets and submit to absorption into the Nethys Collective. Resistance will result in your destruction and the loss of useful resources. Admiral Hanna responded from the Confederation Station. I am Admiral Lee Hanna of the Terra Vorthak Confederation. We invite you to send representatives for diplomatic discussions. Diplomacy is inefficient. Surrender immediately or face annihilation. We have a counter-proposal, Hanna replied calmly. Before you make your final decision, would you like to observe a demonstration of Confederation capabilities? There was a long pause before the Nethys commander responded. What demonstration? Please scan our station and the docked vessels. Tell us what you observe. After several minutes, the Nethys transmission resumed. We detect standard biological technology, nothing that would interest the collective. Look more carefully, Hanna suggested. Specifically, scan the power generation and defensive systems. Another pause, longer this time. These readings are impossible. The energy output exceeds theoretical maximums for biological technology. That's because it isn't purely biological technology, Partner Commander Vextal interjected, appearing alongside Hanna on the transmission. It's collaborative technology. Collaboration between species is inefficient, the Nethys commander stated. The collective has analyzed thousands of multi-species alliances. All resulted in conflict and dissolution. Have you analyzed any voluntary partnerships? Dr. Soyoung asked, joining the conversation. Voluntary cooperation is a temporary state that inevitably degrades into competition or absorption. Perhaps you should observe our demonstration before reaching that conclusion, Hanna suggested. What followed was a carefully choreographed display of Confederation capabilities. Ships from different systems performed coordinated maneuvers that showcased not just military cooperation, but technological integration that created capabilities beyond the sum of its parts. The human-designed adaptive shields combined with Vorthak stability systems created defenses that automatically adjusted to counter each new Nethys weapon type they encountered. The crystalline aliens' absorption beams designed to drain energy from enemy systems instead fed power back into Confederation equipment through human-designed energy conversion protocols. Most impressively, when the Nethys launched their signature attack, nanoscale crystal viruses designed to infect and control enemy technology. The Confederation's hybrid systems not only resisted infection, but converted the crystal viruses into beneficial components that enhanced system performance. This is impossible, the Nethys commander transmitted. Our absorption technology cannot be countered. It wasn't countered, Science Leader Kethren explained. It was integrated. Our systems don't fight your technology. They incorporate it and improve it. But how can biological entities process crystal-based technology? Because we're not just biological entities, Hanna replied. We're a combination of multiple approaches to the same problems. Each species contributes its unique strengths. The collective will absorb this technology and reproduce it. The technology only works through voluntary cooperation, Vextal pointed out. You can absorb the components, but you can't absorb the relationships that make them function. There was an even longer pause before the Nethys responded. You are offering partnership to the collective? We're offering you the same choice we offered the Vorthak Empire, Hanna replied. You can continue trying to grow through conquest and absorption, or you can try growing through cooperation and mutual benefit. What would the collective gain from such arrangement? Access to technologies and capabilities that can't be stolen, or absorbed because they only exist through collaborative development, Dr. Soyoung explained, plus the knowledge and perspectives of 19 different species working together. And what would you gain from partnership with the collective? Your unique crystalline technology and your experience with large-scale system integration, Hanna replied. The Confederation believes that diversity of approach creates strength. The Nethys fleet held position for nearly an hour while their leadership debated this unprecedented offer. Finally, their commander returned to the communication channel. The collective will send a single representative to observe your collaboration methods. If these methods prove superior to absorption, we will consider partnership status. Welcome to the Confederation, Hana replied. We look forward to learning what we can accomplish together. As the Nethys fleet moved to a holding position rather than attack formation, partner Commander Vextel turned to Admiral Hana with an expression that might have been amusement. Do you remember our first meeting? He asked. How could I forget? You fired a warning shot past my ear to demonstrate Vorthak superiority, and you handed my weapon back to me in pieces to demonstrate human adaptability. Hana smiled. It seems like a long time ago. 6 months ago I believed that strength came from the ability to dominate others, Vextal reflected. Now I understand that true strength comes from the ability to learn from others. And now we have another species to learn from, Hana observed, watching as a small Nethys vessel separated from their fleet and approached the Confederation station. Do you think they'll adapt to partnership as well as the Vorthak did? I think they'll surprise us, Hana replied. Different species, different approaches, different solutions to the same challenges.